Hello students, in today's class we are going to discuss the detailed and explained solutions of our previous year paper NTA UGC-NET December 2019 English. Our prime focus today will be on Unit 6, the questions from Unit 6 entitled English in India, History, Evolution and Future. Let's talk about the important things about the questions of this unit. The number of questions from this unit were 5. The types of questions was only based on identification based, and the difficulty level was fluctuating from moderate to difficult. Note it down, then we'll talk about the solutions. Let's talk about the very first question of Unit 6 in the question paper. Who among the following has written a series of poems entitled Very Indian Poems in Indian English? Options: Vikram Seth, Arun Kolatkar, Nissim Ezekiel, Keki Andarwala. The correct answer is the third one, Nissim Ezekiel. If we talk about Nissim Ezekiel, he was born in 1924 and died in 2004. Nissim Ezekiel was an Indian Jewish poet who belonged to the Jewish community of Bombay, and he wrote this poem, Very Indian Poems in Indian English. In fact, it's a series of poems, and in the complete series of these poems, we find that there is a theme. The theme is related to education and literacy. Have you ever found any difference between an educated person and a literate person? If you have found or even haven't found, it's necessary to read the poem because it is telling us about the Indian way of speaking English, in which many of the errors are committed by a simple, usual Indian. So, this is the poem based on the mistakes in grammar and usage. Though the poem is providing a funny theme, but still it's relative to the way of speaking in India. Let's talk about the second question. Which of the following books carried the additional title Sermon on the Sea? Options: The Religion of Man by Rabindranath Tagore, Essay on Gita by Aurobindo, Hind Swaraj or Indian Home Rule by Mahatma Gandhi, Christ and Satyagraha by Warrior Alvin. The correct answer is Hind Swaraj or Indian Home Rule. That means the third option is the correct one. Do you know Hind Swaraj was a book that was chiefly based on nationalism. In this book, Mahatma Gandhi talked about nationalism, the way of Indian freedom, and how people should strive to get that lost freedom in their own country. It is a small book about nationalism. It was first written in Gujarati language, around 30,000 words. Do you know? More than 40 pages of the book were written on voyage when Mahatma Gandhi was just traveling from England to South Africa. It was banned in India by government of India due to some seditious content. And finally the ban was removed on 21st December 1938. It was in 1924 when the book was published with some different title. The title Sermon on the Sea by the country Chicago. And an introduction was added to that by a person, J. H. Holmes. Note it down, then we'll talk about some further questions. Let's talk about the third question. Which two of the following works were published after 1947? The Dark Room, Mr. Sampath, a printer of Malgudi. Let's omit this. 7 Summers, or the last one, The Big Heart. Options: A and B, B and C, C and D, or A and D. The correct answer is the second one. That means here, this one, B and C. Let's come over B and C. Mr. Sampath, a printer of Malgudi, and 7 Summers. If we talk about 1947, it's a remarkable year. You know why? Because it is the year in which we got independence. So, the novels that published after independence are here. 7 Summers, that was published in 1951 by Mulk Raj Anand, and Mr. Sampath, that was published in 1949. The other novels, The Dark Room, The Big Heart, published before 1947. Let's talk about the other question. Question number 4. Which British administrator passed a resolution for the promotion of European literature and science among the natives of India? Options: Lord Hastings, Lord Cornwallis, Lord Bentinck, or Lord Hardinge. The correct answer is Lord Bentinck. It was in 1835 when Sanskrit and Arabic education was to be just demoted and simply disregarded by Macaulay. He considered that the spread of these type of education and just spending a lot of funds by East India Company for these educated things, I mean to say these things in education, should be discarded. He considered English education about European culture, literature is necessary for the flourishing of these Indians who were being dominated by British Raj. So it happened that a work in print was introduced by Macaulay named Minutes. It was just stressing on English education in India. It came in 1835, February month. At that time, there was Lord Bentinck in the government in India, and he simply considered this work to be very important and approved the act by the name of the Act of Education 1835. What happened through this? The funds by East India Company were to be given only for English education in India. Arabic and Sanskrit education was disregarded, and along with that, English culture was to be promoted with the help of education. Let's talk about other question, but before that, note it down first. Let us talk about the fifth question here. Which two of the following works are autobiographical narratives? Options: A, B, C, D. Kantapura, Meatless Days, Raisin and Chocolate Cake, The God of Small Things. And the combination given here, A and B, B and C, A and C, and C and D. The correct answer is the second one. That means Meatless Days and Raisin and Chocolate Cake. If we talk about these two works, let's take the first one, Meatless Days. It was published in 1989 and written by an author who was born in Pakistan by the name of Sarah Suliri Goodyear. She was born in 1953 in Pakistan, but right now she is just in America, and she is a professor in Yale University. She has her expertise in Victorian poetry, romantic poetry, and also the contribution of Edmund Burke in the society and literature. The genre of this work is autobiographical piece, and it's simply a personal memoir by the writer. The theme revolves around history of the development of Pakistan, the position of females in Pakistan, and along with that, her own experience from America. Let's talk about the other work here, Raisin and Chocolate Cake. The work was published in 1954. The author who wrote this work was Nayanthara Sehgal. Do you know one important thing about Nayanthara Sehgal? She was niece of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, that means the daughter of his sister. The genre of the work is autobiographical because the work is a portrayal, that means a picturization of Indian freedom struggle, and it moves across the assassination of M.K. Gandhi. Nayanthara Sehgal was one of the most prominent writers, and she was awarded with Sahitya Academy Award in 1985 for her work Rich Like Us. So this was the answer. Let's talk about the conclusion of these questions. To conclude, we find that female Indian writers were mainly asked. Another thing, just the trio of Indian English literature, fiction that means Mulk Raj Anand, R.K. Narayan and Raja Rao were given just prime significance, and finally some of the fictional works were also taken into consideration. So these are the works you should provide your concentrated focus on and read them thoroughly.